name's Caitlin Bandy, and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today I am here to talk August TBR, and with me I have my usual little girl Luna, and I also have our new foster. This is Willie. Willie's hanging out with us because our shelter here in Vegas is very, very over full, and so we've had him for about a week now. As per usual, I just want to say that if you hear some snorting, snuffling, or snoring in the background of my videos, that is mostly Miss Luna over here. She likes to snort and snuffle. You can even hear her a little bit right now. And if I don't mention it, somebody inevitably will ask me in the comments, who's snoring in the background of your video? So it's this one. This one's very quiet. He doesn't really snort and snuffle so much. But yeah, so you may hear her in the background as she settles down into her bed. So August TBRs, gosh, I cannot believe how fast 2025 is going. I know that I've said that a lot this year in a lot of videos, but it really seriously does feel like the fastest year of my life. You know, I had a new career, we've got a foster dog, went on a huge vacation, just so many things in 2025 that have just made it feel like this increasingly fast pace. And I can't believe we're in August. So if you've been following my channel for a little while, you'll know that every month I pick out a different TBR. And for the month of August, I typically have like a free month where I just let myself read something comforting, something enjoyable. Every year it's a little bit different. But for this August, I decided I wanted to work on some fantasy and some science fiction. As you can see, I have a massive stack of books in front of me, and that's because the fantasy and sci-fi has been accumulating on my shelves for quite a while. I have several series that I'm in the middle of that I haven't finished reading. I have a bunch of standalones, just tons of stuff to catch up on, and it's been a while since I've done a month that was just solely dedicated to sci-fi and fantasy and maybe a little bit of like magical realism and mythology as well. So that's what we're doing this August. I'm very excited. There are some books in here that I've been really wanting to get to. We have a lot of books to talk about, so I'm just gonna go through these very rapidly while this guy here gives me sad puppy eyes because I'm not petting him constantly. All right. So first I have two ARCs that were recently sent to me. Both of them have either magical realism or fantasy elements. First, I have The Nimbus by Robert P. Baird. This was sent to me by Henry Holt and published in June of 2025. This is about a young boy who starts to glow. His like ethereal glow is called the Nimbus, and everyone that he comes into contact with is affected by this glow, whether they know it or not. This sounds really quirky and interesting. I love that kind of like merging of fantasy and reality together. So I'm really excited about this one. After that, I have The Book of Lost Hours by Hayley Gelfuso. This is publishing this month, and this was sent to me by Atria Books. This is a book that I'm really excited about. It's kind of a merging of historical fiction and like fantasy and sci-fi elements. I believe that either Book of the Month or Aardvark is also featuring this as one of their books for August, which makes me even more excited. I think I'm gonna really enjoy it. This starts in 1938 in Germany. We have a young girl named Lisbeth who is hidden in the time-space library by her father. It's where all of the memories of history are stored. In 1949, she meets an American timekeeper who offers her a second chance at life. There is more to the story, but that alone sounds really interesting to me. I love that this starts kind of in that World War II era and then moves forward into the future. I love the idea of this time-space continuum and it being a library full of memories. I'm really excited to dive into this one. Then a recent find at a little free library, I have The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I've been seeing this book everywhere lately. And honestly, I was originally drawn in just by the cover of it. It looks so pretty. This one's just a paperback, but I've seen a couple of the hardback editions, and it's just such a stunning book. This is a book about two strangers who find themselves connected by a vast and mysterious library that contains many wonders and still many more secrets. I've been hearing really good things about this book, so I'm very excited to get into it. What a cool little free library find. And then a book that I purchased as a birthday present to myself, I have Heavenly Tyrant by Zhao. I loved the first book in this series, Iron Widow. It just threw so many of the sci-fi and fantasy stereotypes on their heads. There is a love triangle, but it's a polyamorous love triangle. The woman is tough and badass. There's just so much going on that is super, super interesting. I could not wait to read this second book. So happy that I finally found a copy of it, and I am really looking forward to getting into this. I'm sure I'm gonna binge read this in like a whole night. After that, I have another ARC. This is The Hounding by Xenobe Purvis. This was also featured by one of the book clubs. I wanna say it was Aardvark. This seems like a very Aardvark book, but I may be mixing it up. This book was sent to me by Henry Holt and is publishing in August as well. This is a debut novel about 5 sisters living in a small village in England and their neighbors who are convinced that they're turning into dogs. This book sounds really quirky and interesting. It's a pretty short read. I'm sure I'm gonna blaze through this one if I get to it this month. I am really excited about it. From there, I have 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. So Murakami is obviously a very well-known, prolific author. This is an author that I've never read before. I happened to pick this up a couple years back on a book crawl in San Diego. I found this copy in a used bookstore, and I was like, hey, this is one of the most recent works by Murakami. Maybe this is a good place to start. The back of this doesn't really say much, but it does say, a love story, a mystery, a fantasy, a novel of self-discovery, a dystopia to rival George Orwell's. 1Q84 is a tremendous feat of imagination from one of our most revered contemporary writers. So this should be interesting. I feel like comparing itself to 1984, one of the most famous books ever, is a pretty high bar to set for yourself. So we'll see how this goes. After that, I have The Apology by Jimin Han. This book is about a pampered South Korean housewife who finds herself thrust in the afterlife with one chance to make her wrongs right. I found this at the last bookstore in Los Angeles. I was browsing their fiction aisles for like a good hour, happened to come across this and was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. So very excited about this. Love this concept of this woman being in the afterlife and having a chance to kind of right some wrongs. From there, I have To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. This is a signed edition. I found this in a used bookstore a while back. And I have never read anything but Paolini, despite having several of his books on my shelves. So this is a standalone, and I thought this would be a good place to start. This says, Kira Navarez dreamed of life on new worlds. Now she's awakened a nightmare. So this sounds interesting. I love a good sci-fi. I'm totally here for the alien invasion, whether they come to Earth or whether it's astronauts going to other planets and awakening things they shouldn't have. I have heard that this is kind of a surprisingly slow book, but I'm gonna give it a shot. After that, I have Babylonia by Costanza Casati. This is a book that I got from Book of the Month a while back, and I'm very excited about this. So this is a book that follows Semiramis, the only female ruler of the ancient Assyrian Empire, also known as the Queen of Babylonia. This is a book that's really interesting to me. Some of this is based on history and some of this based on myth and legend. I'm very excited to see what Casati does with this. I've been enjoying ancient retellings quite a bit lately, and I love that this one is going to go to Babylonia. I think that this will be a great book. After that, I have Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is about 2 women who used to be friends and then kind of have a falling out. And one woman reaches out to the other and says like, hey, I have kids and I need some help with them. There's just one problem. The children spontaneously burst into fire when they're agitated. Kind of an interesting concept for a story. You can see that there is literally a kid on fire in the front of the book. I'm not sure about this one. This is an older book. I haven't heard a ton about it, but it sounds like a really quirky, interesting book. So I'm gonna give it a try. And another recent find of mine was This Great Hemisphere by Mateo Askaripour. So this is the author of Black Buck. That was a satire of the financial industry in Wall Street, which I read, I believe, last year, and I found it very interesting. I didn't love every single thing about it, but I did love the overall concept, and I would say like the first 2/3 of the book were really good. So I was very excited to find this particular book. This is a book that is set in a futuristic society. We have a young woman who is from an invisible class, and she sets off to find her missing brother. There's just one problem. Her brother is a high-profile murder suspect. So I really, like I said, enjoyed Askaripour's writing before. I'm excited to see what he does in his sophomore release, and I'm looking forward to getting into this one. After that, I have a book that my mom sent to me so that she thought I would probably really enjoy, and that's The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. So this book follows a character named Cassie who works in a New York City bookstore, and one day one of her favorite customers dies and she's just feeling heartbroken, and she realizes he left behind 2 books for her. One is an old, cracked, worn tome, and when she opens it up, she finds out it's The Book of Doors. Later, she is confronted by a Scottish librarian who tells her that these books are rare and hunted, and that is one of the most desired of all of them. And Cassie has to decide what to do with this book, whether to trust the Scottish librarian and to keep herself safe from the people who are going after finding the Book of Doors. My mom read this. I think that she enjoyed it, and it sounds really good to me. I've read other books with a similar kind of a concept. So hopefully this is done well and it'll be a fun read. From there, I have A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. After two girls are kidnapped by some spirits, we have two people who set out on a search for them. There's also some conflict with a neighboring clan. This is another book that I picked up from Book of the Month, and it's a book I've heard really good things about. It's also been sitting on my shelves for quite a while. I believe the second book in the series has released already, so hopefully I'll like the first one, and if I do, I'll probably pick up the second one as well. After that, I have Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. So the only book I've ever read by V.E. Schwab was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, one that people seem to really love, and one that honestly I found as boring as like watching paint dry. It was just so slow and plodding and repetitive. But I have a coworker who is a huge V.E. Schwab fan, and this is his absolute favorite of Schwab's books. He told me that it's just so good and interesting, kind of gritty and dark. So I've had this on my shelf for quite a while, and I thought I would finally give it a try. From what I understand, this is a story of 4 parallel Londons. There is White London, Red London, Gray London, and Black London, which no longer seems to exist. And we have a character who is able to basically transport messages between the different parallel Londons. I don't know much besides that. I know that there is one more book in this series, I believe. I'm very excited to check it out, especially upon recommendation from my coworker. So hopefully I'll enjoy this one more than I enjoyed Addie LaRue. After that, I have Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. This is about a young girl who heads home to Delawisp, the town where her mother was living after her mother has passed away. There she finds some unexplainable mysteries and many unfinished stories. My mom passed this one on to me as well after she finished reading it, thought that I would probably like it. We have very similar tastes, so I'm gonna give this one a try for sure. And then I have The Shape of Water by Daniel Kraus and Guillermo del Toro. I absolutely love Guillermo del Toro as a film director. His movie Pan's Labyrinth is one of my all-time favorite movies. I haven't seen The Shape of Water, but I know that it is about a woman and a mermaid. I'm really excited to read this. I think this will be a really interesting read, and I'm curious to see how Del Toro's work translates into a book. After that, I have Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao. This is about a woman who inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets, and then who embarks on a magical journey when a charming young physicist wanders into the shop. This sounds very much like a cozy fantasy. It was one of my picks from Book of the Month a little while back. I actually really love the vibes on the front of this book. It kind of reminds me of like a Miyazaki film for some reason. I'm really excited to get into this. I think that this will be a nice, fun, cozy. Then I have Liquid Snakes by Stephen Kierce. This was a book I picked up in Pasadena last year. I did a really cool book crawl through a bunch of bookstores there. So this book follows a character named Kenny, who is a biochemist. He's grieving his recently stillborn baby and the divorce that has followed, and he blames the death of his child on chemicals that had been leaching from a plant nearby. In his search for revenge, he creates a substance called RST, which causes horrific deaths. His actions create a public regional outcry and draw the attention of epidemic services. I think this one's particularly interesting because our main character is looking to target specific people from a specific socioeconomic group. I think that with all of the things that are going on today, that is a kind of a timely topic, and I haven't really seen a whole lot of books touch on that, so I'm really interested in this one. After that, I have Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance by Ruth Emmy Lang. This is a book where I honestly don't know that much about it, but I have seen quite a few people recommend this book and talk about how fantastic it was. I have most recently read Emmy Lang's The Wilder Woman, and that was okay. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was like a super standout book for me, but like I've heard so many rave reviews about this one that I just feel like I have to give it a try. So here we are. And then I feel like a fantasy TBR wouldn't be complete without a T. Kingfisher book, so I have Nettle and Bone. I love, first of all, that this has all of this illustration inside the covers. This book follows Mara, the shy third-born daughter who's grown up in a covenant. Her sister was married away to an uncaring throne, and after years of watching her suffer, Mara will no longer be silent. She goes on a journey to rescue her sister, but first there are 3 impossible tasks she must complete to get the help that she needs. I've heard really good things about this book. I've read several books by Kingfisher at this point, and I've kind of had a mixed response. I've enjoyed her horror more than fantasy, but I hear this is one of her best fantasies, so we'll see how that goes. From there, I have God of Mercy by Okezi Nwoka. So this is a book that's set in Nigeria, and it is about the Igbo people living in the Ichulu village, and watching the villages around them contend with colonization and Christianity. This book really interests me because I think it's going to talk a lot about colonization and about that battle between the Yoruba beliefs and religion and the Christianity that was brought in with the colonizers. I haven't heard a ton about this book, but it's been on my shelf for quite a long time, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. I absolutely love this cover. This is frequently one of my display books. I just think it's so cool. From there, I have two Nnedi Weir books. I have Project Hail Mary and I have Artemis. I started Artemis, I don't know, several years back. I got like 40 or 50 pages in it, and I just kind of drifted off. There was nothing really wrong with it. I wasn't hating it, but I just didn't feel captivated necessarily, and maybe it was just wrong place, wrong time. So I like to give books several shots if I feel like I'm just not connecting with them at the moment. So hopefully I'll be in a better place for this time. Then I have Project Hail Mary. This is about an astronaut. I believe that they have a mission in space. They wake up like on a shuttle and are kind of unaware of what's going on. I have heard rave reviews of this book over and over and over again. I have read Weir's The Martian, which I really enjoyed. It was a 5-star read for me. So I'm very excited to get back into Weir's world of sci-fi. Then I have Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. This is the story of a town mystery. So there's a small town on the River Thames. One night in the pub, a stranger bursts in who's injured, and in his arms, he carries a young dead girl. The girl is brought into the tavern, and she mysteriously returns to life. There's a problem though. The girl is mute, and so she can't explain what happened to her. The entire town sets off trying to figure out this mystery of who this girl is that has died and then come back to life. This is another book that's been on my shelf for a really long time. I want to say I got this at a used book sale through my library. It sounded really interesting, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, so I'm hoping to get to it very soon. And then I have one of the books that I was anticipating highly this year, and that is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. So this one says, a disabled Nigerian-American woman pens a wildly successful sci-fi novel, but as her fame rises, she loses control of the narrative. This sounds like very meta. I'm really excited to get into this. I really enjoy Okorafor's writing. I, in particular, really love like her Afro-futuristic sci-fi and fantasy. This is a completely different genre, and so I'm very, very excited to check this out. I haven't heard a ton about this, but this was a super hyped release. From there, I have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is another book that I started a while back. I got like 50 pages in, and I just was like, I'm just not there right now. I don't know what it was. I wasn't connecting the way I wanted to. I did decide that I wanted to give this another shot though, because I've heard so many fantastic reviews of this book. So many people really enjoyed it. So I thought I ought to give it a different try on a different day. So this one says, The Rules of Blackheath. Evelyn Hardcastle will be murdered at 11 p.m. There are 8 days and 8 witnesses for you to inhabit. We will only let you escape once you tell us the name of the killer. Understood? Then let's begin. So I remember when I first started this, that was kind of the thing that was disorienting, is like that process of like going through some steps and then restarting, and then going through some steps and restarting. So sounds kind of interesting. Hopefully I can get a little further into it and see if it picks up. After that, I have Dissolution by Nicholas Binge. This was one of my Aardvark picks recently. This is about a woman named Maggie who has spent the last decade of her life caring for her elderly husband as he's dealt with memory loss. One day, a stranger named Hassan shows up at Maggie's place and shows her evidence that her husband isn't actually suffering from memory loss or dementia, but is instead having his memories removed. As Maggie delves deeper into her husband's mind, she finds that not only are there many surprising memories, but that the fate of humanity might actually hang in the balance. I'm excited about this. This is a really interesting story. Nicholas Binge has been featured twice by Aardvark already. He's one of the few repeat authors that they have. His first book, Ascension, was featured by Aardvark, and then this one as well. I really want to read Ascension as well, but I ended up picking up Dissolution, And so I'm really excited to check this out. From there, I have Medea by Eilish Quin. So this is a retelling of the story of Medea, one of the most maligned and hated women throughout Greek mythology. I'm really here for a feminist retelling of this character. I love seeing all these modernized versions of these Greek stories. And I think this one's going to be really interesting. I love the cover of this too. I just think this is such a pretty book. This came from my mom's house as well. She had read this and said that she enjoyed it and thought I would probably enjoy it too. So here we are. Then I have Black Candle Women by Diane Marie Brown. This is a book that I actually recently just picked up on a trip to San Diego. I was browsing a used bookstore and I happened to find this copy. This was a book that I remember wanting to read when it first came out. I was enchanted by the cover. It sounded really interesting. And then I saw it on the shelves and I was like, hey, I should pick this up. This has been on my radar for quite a long time. This book is about the Montrose family, specifically several generations of women, and a curse that befalls their family. Any person that any of them fall in love with will immediately die. As new details about the family curse emerge, they are set on a collision course with a 1950s New Orleans voodoo shop. Sounds really interesting. I hope that I'm gonna really enjoy this one. From there, I have Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. I haven't read a whole lot of Scalzi. I have Starter Villain on my shelves. It was a book that I started and got like 50 or 60 pages into and then kind of put down. Just wasn't in the right headspace for it. But I've read so much and heard so much about the Kaiju Preservation Society and how fantastic it was. So I thought I'd give it a try. It's a pretty short read as well. In this book, the main character Jamie is stuck in a dead-end job when he runs into an old friend who tells him that he works for an animal conservation society and offers him a job. Jamie accepts, except he finds out that his job is not where he expected. It's in an alternate dimension and his job is to protect kaiju, giant dinosaur-like creatures who are surprisingly vulnerable. I've heard so many fantastic things about this book, so I'm really looking forward to trying it out. Hopefully I'm gonna really enjoy it. After that, I have Ever the Hunted by Erin Summerall. So this is the first book in a series, and this is about a 17-year-old girl named Britta who works with her father tracking people down. Her father is the legendary bounty hunter for the king of Milan. Then one day her father is murdered and Britta loses all the rights to any inheritance or property that he had. She seeks shelter where she feels the safest, which is in the woods where her and her father worked. Unfortunately, she is caught poaching by the royal guards and brought to the king. Instead of facing the noose, she's offered a deal, her freedom for her father's killer. This was a book that I found quite a long time ago in a little free library in St. George, Utah. There are quite a few little free libraries there, and whenever Oz and I head up to Zion or Bryce, we like to hit a few of the little free libraries on the way. So I dropped off a bunch of books, and then one of the last ones that we visited, I happened to see this in there. It sounded really interesting, so I picked it up. It's been sitting on my shelf for a couple years at this point, so I think it's time to finally get to it. From there, I have Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian, which is a feminist retelling of the Knights of the Round Table in Camelot, told through the perspective of Lady Shalott, who has supernatural powers and premonition. So I'm really looking forward to this. This is a pretty old release, but it was featured by Book of the Month back in the day. I haven't heard a whole ton about this, but I love a good King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table retelling. Next up, I have Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. This is a series I've been wanting to start for a really long time. Book one has been sitting on my shelves for a good bit. This follows a character named Tira Sai, who is an orphan and has always longed for a family. She ends up competing in a competition to become one of the King's Council of 11, but instead she's given a role to kill the crown prince. Tira Sai refuses to stand by and become a political pawn, but how will she survive otherwise? I've heard really good things about the first book. I haven't heard as much about the other books in the series, but I'm hopefully gonna really enjoy this one and I'm looking forward to getting into it. From there, I have Girls of Paper and Fire and Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nagon. This is a fantasy series. We have a young woman who is from what's called the paper class because she's disposable and breakable, and she's called forth to serve the king. 8 girls are typically selected, but this year 9 will be, and one of them isn't made out of paper. She's actually made of fire. I haven't heard a whole ton about this series. I did find the first book in this series in a little free library. It piqued my interest. And then I came across book 2 in a library book sale. And so I figured I would eventually read these. They've been sitting on my shelf for quite a while. So maybe we'll get into them this month. From there, I have another duology. I have Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmare Nightmares by Laini Taylor. So I've heard a ton about this particular duology and how good it is and how interesting it is. We have a main character named Laszlo who is having some very strange dreams, dreaming of this land called Weep and what happened there 200 years in the past. Eventually he gets an opportunity to go to Weep, and there he finds a goddess that he has dreamed of before he knew she existed. I am really excited to try this duology. I've never read Laini Taylor's writing, but I've heard so many rave reviews of this duology. Hopefully it will not disappoint. From there, I have Silver Elite by Danny Francis. This was a book of the month feature a little while back, and it has these really pretty painted edges. This was a special edition that they released, and I was excited to get a copy. This is a dystopian kind of romantasy, which is not usually my vibe, but I've been hearing so many good things about this book, I decided I wanted to check it out. This says, psychic gifts are a death sentence, and there are rules to survival. Trust no one, lie to everyone, and whatever you do, don't fall for your greatest enemy. Like I said, I've been hearing a lot of buzz around this book. Hopefully this will be enjoyable for me. I'm kind of going out on a limb here, picking something that's a little bit more romance focused, but hopefully there will be enough dystopian energy to carry me through on it. And my final book is Curious Tides by Pascale Lacelle. This is a book about a character named Emery. She is going to a college for lunar magic. She is down on a shore with 11 of her classmates, and a freak thing happens. She's the only survivor of the accident. Prior to the accident, she wasn't a very good healer. In fact, she was probably one of the worst in her class. But after this accident, she finds herself possessing powers that no healer should have. To gain control of her powers and to find out what happened to her classmates, she enlists the help of another boy named Baz, who is more familiar with the darker type of magic and who also lost his sister in the drownings. I've heard pretty good things about this. I think I first got interested in this because I thought the cover of it was really cool. I liked the description. I like this inheriting powers at the tragedy of the classmates and investigating what's going on. There's like some mystery elements, some fantasy elements, lots to enjoy here. This is a pretty big book, and I have a lot of big books on this TBR, so we'll see how many I can get to this month. And if you're watching this video going, Caitlin, you have way too many books. There's no way you're gonna get through all of these. Yes, I know. I do this to myself intentionally because I like to give myself a little bit of freedom within my TBR. Usually I pick out 20 to 30 books, which is a little bit more than I'm gonna read in a given month, but that way I can kind of mood read within the genre or theme that I've picked for the month. So I have a big stack of books here to get through. I'm gonna get through as many as possible. Quite a few of them have been sitting on my shelves for a while, so I'd love to knock a few of those books off at least. And honestly, I'm really excited about this month because fantasy and sci-fi are like comfort genres for me. They're the genres that I go to when I'm feeling reading fatigue, sometimes when I need to break up all the literary fiction and historical fiction and nonfiction. They're just like slipping into a warm bath at the end of the night. There's something just comforting about reading fantasy and sci-fi. So I'm really looking forward to a whole month of just fantasy and sci-fi. I think it's gonna really leave me feeling refreshed and recharged and ready to tackle more of my TBR in the upcoming months. So that being said, if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know which of these books have you read? Are there any that you want to read? How did you feel about them? Just no spoilers, please. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video, and that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.